For hundreds of years, this new arrangement that was coming into being at the end of the Roman Empire was put on hold as society went into the feudal mode of production. But at the end of the feudal mode of production, around the beginning of the 1800s really, capitalist systems of production such as trade, manufacturing and banking begin to replace agrarian feudalism as the fundamental way in which we're making products, in other words, as the generalized mode of production. So the generalized mode of production, according to Marx, is an engine with its own laws, running to its own forces. And according to the base superstructure model, the things in the superstructure, which include art, the legal system, government, the church, religion, all of this is dragged along, according to this theory of the base and superstructure, all of this is dragged along in response to changes that are fundamentally changes that are caused by the system of production itself. So what we come to the capitalists, what they call the capitalist revolution. The capitalist revolution is when the capitalists, that is the businessmen and the factory owners, replaced the aristocrats, that is the dukes and the barons and the kings, as the people in control of the generalized mode of production. Now these people, when they became the people in control, felt monetarily strong but culturally insecure. So they looked to art to justify themselves as not only financial powers but as culturally merit-worthy. They looked to religion but also to art. They bought paintings. They took an interest in literature, which is why in the 1800s, 1700s and 1800s, literary criticism becomes a possible business. It's possible to sell a book about the life of Samuel Johnson. People will discuss the poetry of John Keats over the dinner table. This is something that would probably never have happened in the aristocratic period of the Middle Ages, where aristocrats decided what was good and bad poetry, and they didn't have to give any reasons for it. So ideology, a potted theory of ideology, is that ideology is that aspect of a text which shores up the powers that be, the powers of the status quo. A single text can have ideological parts and anti-ideological parts. Particularly in a drama or a movie, you can have one character speaking the theory of government and good order and the capitalist system, and another character who is preaching anarchy and subversion and evil. And sometimes it's very difficult to say that the author is definitely telling you to believe the hero and not the villain. Sometimes a text, however, has ideological features that reflect deeply rooted principles in the generalized mode of production. So let's look at capitalism as a generalized mode of production. What does capitalism have as a generalized mode of production? Well, according to Marx, capitalism requires three things fundamentally. The first is capitalists. These are people who are brave enough and inventive enough and essentially confident enough to set up businesses such as factories or merchanting houses. Perhaps they've inherited this concern from their fathers, but the first capitalists were largely pioneers, coming out of the old guild system by and large. And these capitalists need access to a line of credit which was provided by banks, the first real serious banks being in Italy, emerging in the Renaissance in Italy, the Medici banks, and in Holland on the Bourse. The other thing that capitalists need is people willing to work for them. Marx calls these waged labor. So workers in Marx are referred to as waged labor or sometimes as fixed capital.